It can almost be said without a doubt that there is no country in the world that does not have an army. A major part of the budget of the countries of the world is spent on the military of those countries. And more importantly, a large part of the financial circulation in the world is spent on increasing the military power of the countries. The Global Firepower Institute has published a ranking of the world's strongest militaries. In 2023, among 145 countries, based on their overall strength. This ranking is based on factors such as the amount of equipment and military forces of each country, as well as its economic, geographic, and available resources. These factors are used to produce a score called the Power Index, and the closer this number is to 0, the greater the military power of that country. Thus, in the continuation of this article, we intend to introduce you to the top 5 countries in the world in terms of military in 2023. Please subscribe to our channel and like the video before watching the video. Number 1. U.S. Army. This force is headed by the President of the United States, who determines the military policies of the country through the Ministry of Defense. The Ministry of Defense is one of the departments of the U.S. federal government, which is headed by the Secretary of Defense. The Minister of Defense is a civilian and a member of the cabinet, and is considered the second person in the chain of command after the President. To coordinate military activities with diplomatic standards, there is an institution called the National Security Council as an advisory body to the President, whose head is called the National Security Advisor to the President. The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Armed Forces is also an 8-member council that plays an advisory role to the President and the Minister of Defense, and all its members, including the commanders of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force, are chosen by the President and approved by the President and approved by the Senate. The U.S. Armed Forces is the largest military force in the world in terms of facilities, budget, and number of military personnel, and recruits its forces from among volunteers. Although conscription has been done several times in the past, it has not been recorded since 1972. The cost of these forces in 2020 was about $778 billion, and this force is in the first place among all countries in terms of the amount of military expenses. This amount of budget is approximately equivalent to 39 of the total military expenses in the world, and the 14th in terms of ratio. Military spending is as high as the gross domestic product among countries in the world, with 3.4% of the total gross domestic product of the United States The number of the armed forces of the United States is close to 3 million people, of which about 600,000 are reserve forces, which is compared to the average. The reserve forces of other countries are 16 more. The number of active armed forces in the United States in 2021 is estimated at 1,346,400 people, and the United States is in the 3rd place in terms of the number of active military personnel it has. Number 2. Russian Army. The armed forces of the Russian Federation include the Russian military forces established after the breakup of the Soviet Union. On May 7, 1992, Boris Yeltsin, the then President of Russia, signed the decree establishing the Ministry of Defense of Russia. The President of the Russian Federation, currently Vladimir Putin, is the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Commander-in-Chief. February 23 is Army Day in Russia. The armed forces of the Russian Federation ranks 5th in the world in terms of the number of active personnel, with about 1 million active personnel. And in addition, it has at least 2 million reserve personnel. Public service in Russia, it is 1 year, and it is compulsory for all men between 18 and 27 years old. This force is in the second place after the U.S. Armed Forces in terms of equipment and military strength. Currently, the Russian Armed Forces ranks first in the world in terms of the number of nuclear weapons. This force ranks first in terms of the number of tanks, and based on the number of ballistic missile submarines, the number of naval vessels, and the number of aircraft. Military is also in the second place in the world. Russia is one of the 3 countries that has active and operational strategic bombers. This country ranks 4th in the world in terms of military expenses. Number 3. Chinese Army. The Chinese Army, known as the military force of the People's Republic of China, is one of the largest and most powerful military forces in the world. With more than 2.3 million members, the Chinese military is the largest military force in the world. In terms of population, this number includes land, air, and sea forces. The organization of the Chinese Army is divided into several military districts, each of which is headed by a military commander. These regions include the North Region, the South Region, the East Region, and the West Region. This army has advanced and powerful military equipment that includes tanks, planes, ships, and ballistic missiles. This equipment is supplied from domestic production and technological imports. The Chinese military allocates a large military budget every year. This budget is for the development and improvement of military equipment, training and preparation of troops and research. Number 4. Indian Army. The Indian Armed Forces are the armed forces of the Republic of India, which include professional services of 3 categories: Indian Army, Indian Navy, and Indian Air Force. In addition, the Indian Armed Forces are supported by the Indian Coast Guard and paramilitary organizations. Various internal institutions such as Strategic Forces Command and Integrated Staff are also in the Ministry of Defense. With a strength of more than 1.4 million active personnel. India is the second largest military force in the world in terms of population, and also has the largest volunteer army in the world after Iran. The Indian Armed Forces have been involved in a number of major military operations, including the Indo-Pakistani Wars of 1947, 1965, and 1965, and 1971, Portugal, India War, Indo-China War, Chala Incident 1967, 1987. The Indian Armed Forces has continuously moved towards modernization, investing in areas such as future soldier systems and defense systems. Ballistic missiles are trying to upgrade the hardware of their defense systems. India was the largest importer of defense equipment in 2014, with Russia, Israel, France, and the United States being the foreign suppliers of military equipment to India. The government of India has launched the Make in India initiative for indigenous production and reducing dependence on imports, including military and defense imports. Number 5. South Korean Army. The South Korean Army is one of the strongest and advanced military forces in the Asia region. History: the South Korean Army was established in 1948 after the end of World War I. This army was formed in order to maintain security and defend the country against external and internal threats. The size and composition of the South Korean Army is one of the largest in the world, with more than 500,000 active members. The composition of this army includes land, sea, and air forces. The training and equipment of this army has an advanced and diverse training system that is used to strengthen military capabilities and new technologies. This army uses advanced equipment, including tanks, planes, ships, and missile systems. South Korea has one of the highest defense budgets in the world, and in 2020, It was ranked 9th in the world, with a budget of nearly $44 billion US. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to our channel for support.